Assalamu alaikum class, welcome to English grade 11. Today students we are going to cover the competency of oral communication. This is our lecture number 9. So since we have covered SLOs of grammar and vocabulary followed by the reading comprehension learning outcomes that we included in the lesson, and now we are going to talk about oral communication. How can we become good and active participators in a conversation and in communication? So for that purpose today we have these 3 learning outcomes that is serving the same purpose. The idea is to make you so much confident that you can actually do all these and adopt a very good skill of being a good listener, a speaker, a presenter, an active participant in a discussion, actively participating in debates. So all of these learning outcomes, the purpose is to encourage you for doing that, all these things. Never see, every time you must seize an opportunity whenever you want to, whenever you're given a chance to actually increase and enhance your oral communication skills. So for that purpose, first, we know that communication is a two-way process. So when we are in a communication, when we are in that scenario, we should be responding to questions on a range of communicative purposes. For example, in an interview, or in a classroom discussion, in a debate, in a group discussion. So when you are put forward some questions, you should be answering them in a very good standard English. Then you have the SLO, demonstrate attentive listening skills. Yes. Being a good listener, an attentive one is very much important when we are indulge in conversations and all these different scenarios where speaking and listening is equally important. So we will see that how we can demonstrate active listening skills while working in groups and taking turns to speak with standard pronunciation. So we need to learn that how we can take turns, speak on our turn accordingly, and answer with relevance and with standard pronunciation of the words. Then we have the learning outcome where it demands you to engage effectively in a range of collaborative discussions. They can be one-on-one, in groups, and they can also be teacher or supervisor-led debates or discussions with diverse partners on grade level topics, text, and issues. So we have read these learning outcomes. We have broken down for them for you. We have broken them down. Now what we are supposed to do, if I give you a quick summary, is that when we are put forward some questions, we should be answering them according to the relevance in a very good organization and structure. Then we are going to demonstrate that we are good listeners with good listening abilities, and we can have one-on-one or group discussions or teacher-led discussions. So your communication skills, they will be based and judged on these different scenarios and these learning outcomes. So today, let us first talk about that how can we become good communicators? What are the things that we are supposed to do? The first thing is to communicate in the English language and practice as much as you can, right? So practice makes it perfect. It will lead you to become a very good and better communicator. Now, also, there are things like taking turn, speak on your turn, follow the etiquettes and rules of having a good discussion and a good debate. We have to be good listeners. Yes, do you agree that we have to be good listeners, showing active, attentive listening skills? So all these things combined, when we are practicing them and giving importance to each one of these things and always seize the opportunity to participate in these discussions and debates, we can ultimately, with the passage of time, obviously gradually we will become good communicators, and we can totally communicate in the English language without using our native language in it. Now, let's talk about listening. Yes, this is different from hearing. We know that hearing is just when we are not processing the sounds and we are just hearing them, not for understanding or comprehension. Rather, we are doing it just because the sound is coming in our ears. But listening means that we are actually listening. Why? Because we want to understand it and we want to respond to it. Respond with your questions, with your answers. Now, we know that listening is a very important skill. As a matter of fact, we can define listening as follows. Now, listening, dear learners, this is a process, and we need to learn and practice this process of receiving, interpreting, and reacting to a message received from the speaker. So you are here. Do not think that you are passive. Even the listener should have to be active, just like the speaker. So we will receive what? The message of the speaker. We will decode it, try to understand it, interpret it in our own words and according to our prior knowledge and understanding, and we want to react to a message. How do we react? By giving our feedback, by nodding, by agreeing, or by disagreeing. In all of these situations, you have to react to the speaker. Otherwise, you will be called very inactive listeners or unattentive listeners. So we want to be good listeners, having all these skills and all these different kinds of to follow the process of receiving, interpreting, and reacting to a message. This way, we can say that listening is being done and we are actively listening to the speaker. Now, we know that no communication process is complete without listening. So, if you're not listening, then communication is not happening correctly, because you are equally contributing as a listener. Because if you're not listening, then there is no purpose of the speaker to speak or send any kind of message. So speaking and listening, they are equally important. Now, what are the key elements that we need to be following if we want to be good and attentive listeners? Students, since this is you're watching on YouTube, probably this is not a traditional class. It's a hybrid class with I'm teaching you with an online platform. But even if it was a traditional class, then the situation would be different. I would call you out over here, make you participate in the lesson. So now all you have to do is practice by your own and build up that confidence. Speak more and listen as well so that you can become good communicators. We have some key elements of listening over here. Number one is that we pay attention, free from all kind of barriers, free from our thoughts. Stop daydreaming, stop thinking about anything else. Just pay attention to the speaker. And you have to maintain eye contact with the speaker so that the communication is happening in a smoother way. Maintaining eye contact is very much important. This way, the speaker can see if you are actively listening. Then you have to ask clarifying questions. If you are confused about anything, you can just raise your hands or follow the protocols described by the speaker, and then you can put forward your question. Remember, when you are in this kind of situation, do not make it into a debate. Keep it a discussion. Debate is another thing, and that requires other skills. So if you are in a discussion, if you're having a general face-to-face communication, if you are in a class, then you can discuss the matters and ask clarifying questions so that the topic that is under discussion is very much clear. Because we are asking questions for clarification, not for showing our own knowledge or to move away from the topic. So staying on the topic is a very good skill of a good listener. Then we will provide our feedback. Now, students, we can provide our feedback in the two ways: with our body language, with our verbal and non-verbal communication cues. Verbal cues include or clues include your speech. When you are saying yes or no, or when you are answering the question or asking a question, that is your feedback of verbal category. But when we are talking about non-verbal cues, we are talking about the body language, your gestures, facial expressions, and all these things. For example, if you're listening and you're nodding, doing this vertical movement with your head, we can say that you are giving a non-verbal cue and non-verbal feedback. So both these two kinds of feedbacks, verbal and non-verbal, they are equally important when you're giving and providing a feedback to the speaker. And then we have to avoid interruptions. Interruptions of your devices, whether you are making a noise, chewing on something, or banging the table. All of these interruptions, these are instructions, and they are meant to be put away, because this is a barrier in our understanding and in our listening process. So be very much attentive. Do not do all these things if you want to be a good communicator. So I hope that next time when you're attending a lecture, a seminar, a function, a speech, even a discussion or a debate, you follow these protocols, these rules of being a very good and attentive listener. All right. You can have group discussions that can be led by a judge, a supervisor, or your teacher. In group discussions, since there are more than two people, there can be 3 or 4, or one group is discussing something with another group. Then you have to follow the rule of turn taking. It means you have to speak on your turn, and when your turn is not there, when you are listening, even if you're listening, you have to follow the protocols of the discussion and debate. So in order to become a good a person with good discussion skills, you need to be very much aware of all those protocols. You can have one-on-one discussion. You can stay on the topic. You have to stay on the topic because the topic is defined. If you are having a free of topic discussion and you're leading from one thing to another, that is a separate thing. But when you are discussing, let's talk about the evils of social media, then stay on the topic. Be very logical. Do not interrupt the speaker. Speak on your turn, and do not make any kind of logical fallacies. Do not misjudge anyone, or do not make prior judgments or judgments before you are listening to the speaker. So these are all the barriers that we have when we are talking about listening. So we need to eliminate all of them completely, and then our process of listening will be complete and it will be free. Now, this simulation link will teach you that how you can enhance your oral communication. You can watch so many other videos on YouTube. For example, you can watch Oxford's or Cambridge's debates and discussions about different contemporary topics. You can talk about, you can have a discussion, or you can look it up on the internet, discussion on traffic rules, social evils, and so many new problems. Now, for the homework, what you are supposed to do, since this is an oral communication lesson, we don't have a worksheet over here. Your contribution as a student is the only thing that matters, and you need to do a lot of practice. So for this thing, students, you have to watch and listen to debates and discussions that are available on different forums and different platforms or websites like YouTube, or there are so many others. So you can search it up, listen to debates, listen to discussions on various topics, and then note all the protocols and rules that they are following. So by doing this, we can say, if we move back to the learning outcome, that responding to a question on a range of communicative purposes, either for your interview, your job interview, your visa interview, or there are so many different purposes for which we communicate. Then we learned that how we can demonstrate attentive listening skills, followed by engaging effectively in a range of collaborative discussions. They can be one-on-one, in group, and teacher-led. Now, thank you, students. And one more thing is that the difference between a discussion and a debate is different. When you're discussing something, you are learning something new, you're sharing your information. But when you are in a debate, you are trying to persuade others and convince others according to your belief and your understanding. So even if it is a discussion, even if it's a debate, you have to follow the rules and protocols. Some rules are unwritten, some rules are written. No matter what, you have to be very much respectful towards the speaker. Do not make prejudgments, do not have any kind of prejudice or biases, and present your opinions as they are only opinions and not facts. So by following all these protocols, you can become good, effective communicators, good listeners, speakers, and debaters, discussion participants, and so on. So students, now it is up to you that how much you practice these learning outcomes. You can listen to different YouTube audios and then try to answer some questions or write down your feedback. You can listen to debates and transcribe it, or make a notebook or a journal on it. So all these things that you have to do, you can use different applications and softwares to communicate with natives or with the artificial intelligence, or AI as we call it, and you can enhance your communication skills. Always try to speak and communicate in English with your friends and your teacher or supervisors, since we are talking about learning this language. So, but not only we are learning the language, we are also trying to share and utilize the language in real life. So I hope, students, that this learning outcome is quite clear. There will be a link that is shared with you about a website, so that you can actively go through that and increase your competency and your proficiency of the English language. So Ima, if you are listening still, do you have any kind of confusion? All these learning outcomes are clear, I hope. Yes? So what did we learn? We talked about having good listening skills, responding to questions, giving feedbacks, involving and participating in discussions and debates, following rules like turn taking, be very respectful, and all those protocols and rules that I talked about. And also your feedback is very much important. So this is all about today's lesson. Because this is totally dependent upon the student and how they learn, so we need to assess their learning and their speaking in a traditional classroom. So I hope that this does not stop you from practicing it. The more you practice, the more you're closer to become a very good communicator, and that's what matters the most. Thank you so much, students. I'll be catching you in the next video lesson. Take care of yourselves, and Allah Hafiz.